share any resources or the way you do it. And that would be really, really exciting. So I'd like to know about it. Yes, exactly. Learning is a lifetime process, and we could use, and there's a lot of reasons to use crime. So, I mean, that's the first thing we should probably talk about is why use crime. Well, one of the reasons why crime or mystery is because it's interesting. It's clear, um, because you are teaching a bit of forensic science. And what I mean by interesting or interest is some of the top best-selling novels that are bestsellers around the world have to do with forensic science and murder mysteries. These are some of the top best-selling novels out there. So the majority of your learners, especially adults, people love crime. They love forensic science shows. These are some of the top shows. These are some of the top movies. So the topic is really just appeals to a wide audience. So it's great for English. So it's something they would be interested in. It's fun for them. It's fun to solve mysteries and to be searching for clues and even give clues. And at the end, you get a sense of completion and achievement when you do something like that. So it's very motivational for your students because it's not just the focus on the English, because there's tons of skills you can learn by solving crimes, and we'll talk about that later, but also because it's they accomplish something at the end, and it's not necessarily a grade, but they find out something that they were searching for. So I think that's one of the big reasons too. It breaks up the routine. There's a lot of text that they'll need to look at, and in crime novels, the great thing about them, or even short stories to do with crime, is that it has really high content in the vocabulary is actually quite high. So it is definitely something that will test their English skills, and they'll be able to learn a lot in the language. But at the same time, it's really good because not only do you use these scientific terms, but you're dealing with criminals. And sometimes, if you mix it well and you really think about it, then you can have criminals that actually have a lower vocabulary because, and this would mimic real life in a way. So there's different types of vocabulary, and there's different ways to play with the dialogue. So how do we start introducing this into our classes? We can start off really simply by a discussion. Try to find out what kind of mysteries that they're familiar with, what kind of TV shows that they listen to, and things like that. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger because one of the sites, if you don't know how to start a discussion, is you can do the dogma approach, where you can just have the students come and they can share like maybe a clip of their favorite movie that has to do with mystery or something. Oh, Bernie's here, yay! Because I wanted to talk in a little bit about her mystery site. So I'm really excited Bernie's here, yay! Okay, good. But one of them, Sean Banfield, has this ESLdiscussions.com, and I'll go ahead and write that. But you can find a lot of discussion questions to begin in case you don't know, or sometimes I use this as a backup. And in this, I use as a backup, as a background in case the discussion isn't going or I run out of questions. Then this is a site that already has discussion questions, and it has some really good ones. If you look under crime, for example, then it asks questions like, have you ever been the victim of a crime? Have you ever witnessed a crime? What, how would you catch a criminal? Things like that. So it really gets them to start thinking and brainstorming about the topic. And they tend to find this a really interesting topic. I find that most learners, whether they're young learners or adult learners, really get into the discussion. So after you introduce it with the discussion, and you do this, there's actually other ways to put this in the lesson. And one of the ways is by stories. And one of the really good sites out there for stories that focuses on English language learners and also provides you with vocabulary and stuff like that, and also has a game, is Bernie Wall's site, and she's here. So maybe Bernie can take the microphone and tell us a little about her website and what it does. And I can actually, okay, so Bernie, you should be able to click at the very top, there's an audio if you want to tell us a little about the mystery game, and then I'll go and I'll screen share what this looks like on the site. And the great thing about this website is that to get this information, it's free to register. So that's really great, and it has different activities aimed at English language learners. So I'll go ahead and stop talking and let Bernie try and talk. Let's see. So Bernie, at the very top, there's a little talking icon, a little microphone. Talk about and this is at gapfillers.co.uk. And what I did was I actually just searched for murder mystery game. And then I went ahead and I was able to find this really murder mystery type of reading. And then she has actually lesson plans, PDFs and stuff that you can download, and you can do exercises and stuff. So it's really great. How is she doing that? Okay, well, let me go ahead and start. While you're doing that, I'll go ahead and start sharing. Actually, I'm going to screen share really quick um, the site, because I really do want to show them what this looks like, the resources on there, because I think it's out there. Oh. So this is the Gap Fillers website, and a lot of language learners are on here. So this is a site that usually focuses, I believe, on language learners, and you can type whatever on there. But you see, okay, so she has plenty of these stories that are part of this murder mystery game that the learners try to solve. And here's the first episode, so you can go ahead and read it. And then you have questions on vocabulary, and then you actually have questions on the text. So it's a really great website to be able to show to students. I don't know why you can't hear. Shows me that your mic is not on. And then they also run a murder mystery game, so it's a great place to tell your learners to actually go on. And there's how many? About 3,000 in the community that that are part of this community, or are there more? So they would be with other English language learners, and they would be able to interact with them in solving a mystery. So this is a really great resource, and it is free, I believe, for the kids, for the students to go ahead and sign up in the beginning. That's correct, right, Bernie? And there's nothing else like that. I've not seen a community of language learners. So I think it's a really great resource for your students, and it's something that they, I think, definitely would be interested in looking at. There's some other websites where you can actually get some stories. These are not English language related per se, but they are geared towards children. So they are a really good resource, and one of them is mysterynet.com. You have community mystery games. You have mystery and crime TV shows and movies. You have Mystery Greats. It talks about and gives information on Nancy Drew, on Alfred Hitchcock, Edgar Allan Poe. So there's quite a few things that you can find on it. You have where they can get monthly emails and things like that. So it's up to you in something like this. They have types of puzzles to solve and really quick ones that you can do. So this is mysterynet.com. But with something like this, you would have to go and you would have to adapt it for your learners. So, but it's a good site to find little stories and things like that. And there are different things you can do with the text. When you start reading a mystery, and this is something I did learn when I was studying with Marissa, when I was taking my CELTA with Marissa, who's in here today. And some of the things was, when we were trying to figure out how to use these texts, is that you can get them to try and determine what's going to happen at the end, and they can all kind of place bets on that, where they can guess what's the ending and how this is going to result. Or and it's really easy to do this with a kind of crime, so they only read like half the story and then they have to do this prediction. Really good for English language learners to be able to do that, and for them it's really exciting. They want to see, what's going to happen at the end. So I think they like that. This is one of my favorite sites for mysteries. It's called Online 5-Minute Mysteries. And one of the reasons this is my favorite site, because, and I'll point to it, they have an iPhone app. And you know that, I love to use my phone here for everything. And so I always try to introduce like one kind of element of mystery, or I mean one element of mobile learning, because I really believe in mobile learning. But this one has where you can get the 5-minute mysteries on the phone. So for example, my learners in Germany, my adult students, when they're writing the S-Bahn or something like that, they can listen and they can look at one of these 5-minute mystery games on the phone, and then they're constantly partaking in the English. So I think this is something that they would do. If the students sign up for free, and this is mostly for adults, then they're able to do things like get a free email twice per week. They get mystery emails. They get scoring and clue identification. And then here it gives them, it says choose the clues, choose your suspect, solve the case. And you're in this kind of community, and it's with rankings. And the great thing that they have found, even with like language sites like Busu and stuff, is that when you start ranking people or you give them badges, that they're really encouraged to just continue. So this is a really good thing. Even this is a general language website. I think intermediate to high advanced could be able to do these 5-minute mysteries, because after all, they're only 5 minutes. They're really short. So this is one of the, and it's called 5-minute mystery, 5minutemystery.com. So this is another really good site. But not only can you get text with mystery, but one of the great ways to have mysteries is also there's a book. And this book is from Marcus Benavides and Adam Gray. And the great thing usually about this book that's really fantastic is of course it won several awards, including the Eltons that was in my category, but it's okay. I'm not upset by it, because it's such a great book. This has a mystery series, and this is English language teaching book. And the great thing about it is it's Creative Commons. So what this means is basically that um, you get to pay what you want. You get to download this from the internet. You can go right now to bit.ly /mystery book, because this is the way I shortened it, because unfortunately the website address is way too long. But you can go here right now and you can decide what you want to pay for this book, and then you can have this textbook for your students. It's ELT textbook. So it's really an excellent book, and the price is fantastic because you pay what you can afford. So I think that's really, really good. And when you think about it, and this is a complete textbook. So if you did this instead of your usual textbook, most of the students would have to pay maybe £40 or something for their book. So this could be something that you really look at, that would be affordable for some of the students if they have to buy their own book. You can also do this by introducing it through games. There's so many games out there. This is the ones that I use for my young learners. We use Clue Junior, and we get to solve crimes. It has little tiny cards, and they get to be somebody, and they get these clues. And it teaches some great things, like it teaches furniture, because you have different types of rooms and things like that. It teaches prepositions very well. These are some of the things, the fun ways that you can have. This is in, you teach prepositional phrases in the library. You teach professions. Um, you teach about the accountant. And so there's so many things, personality, traits, characteristics. So there's so much vocabulary within this, that you just cover in the game, and it's really fun and motivational. So this is one thing that I do use with my 6 to 10-year-old students. I also use one, by Scooby-Doo, and it's the Murder Mystery Mansion, and that one's fantastic. It's the same principles you have to solve, and you get to be a person, except it's glow in the dark. So my 4-year-old students to 10-year-old students really love this because it's glow in the dark. So that's one of the great things about it. But one of the best ways, I think, to introduce crime is to actually have a simulation of role play. And that's something that's been being talked about inside the the chat box a lot. And Bernie was saying even in her murder mystery, they get to role play this. And think about it. Okay, so if they have to solve a crime, what are some of the skills that they're going to do? What are some of the communication skills that they're going to have to do? You can type this in the chat box. So what would be some of the language skills that they use if they're solving crime? The first thing is probably reading. That's definitely one of the skills. That's one of the obvious. And that's something that we've covered a lot. Deduction. Okay, yes, definitely deduction. And that's a very high critical thinking skill. I think we were talking about that in ELT chat at one point, with how to teach critical thinking skills. And this is one way, through solving mysteries, that your students really get to not only learn vocabulary, but they actually get to apply it, and they actually get to think about things. They and the great thing about this is this teaches them literacy, because when they're doing things such as reading a book, or they're trying to um, figure out words, and then they start thinking about context clues. And so this is a great way to get them in the habit of really, really thinking about literacy skills, and how they read a text, and how they approach something. And sometimes we just have to make that connection. We have to say, okay, just like you are making those deductions, and you're using these clues to solve a mystery, well, you can also do this while you read. You can use words, the phrases, the context, the situation as clues to figure out the meaning and derive meaning from your reading. So this is one way to teach literacy. Another thing that you do is and one of the funnest ways, is you do speak. How do you speak when solving crimes? Definitely can role play, but what do you role play? Well, the kids, most of them are going to probably want to be the criminals, but a lot of them are going to want to talk about the they might want to be like the Sherlock Holmes or the Angela Lambert. Interrogation, exactly. You do interviewing, and it's such fun interviews. I don't know if you were at the IATEFL, but if you were at the IATEFL conference, then you might have seen Paul Braddock's presentation. And one of the things he had these mug shots of all his students, his teenage students. They were to be criminals, and they all had mugshots. And this is something that I did with my young learners. Well, they weren't that young. They were 10. It was a summer camp, and we did a whole unit on forensic science, and it was teaching English. It was teaching English to mixed abilities. And it worked so well, because what we did was we had them do mugshots. And that was really easy to do because we had a digital camera, and we only have one digital camera, and there was about 20 students in the class. So each of them got to make their own mug shots. They got to dress up, and they did different things, like they had to develop their own interview questions. So the scenario that I set when I was doing mine was I filmed a quick 2-minute video of someone stealing my iPod, and that person dressed up. Okay, so and actually at the time, the person dressed up, snuck in, stole my iPod at the time, and then ran away. And then the students had to go through mug shots. They had to come up with interview questions. They had to do role plays of asking these interview questions. And then the other person would pretend to be the criminal, and they would have to make up white lies. And so we went through this whole entire scenario. They did fingerprints. They love to do fingerprints. They did where they had to look at the videos, and when they were looking at the video, I asked them questions. I said, well, how would you begin to even solve this? How would you even begin to eliminate some of the suspects? And some of the things they came up with were, guess what? Well, what would you do? Okay, so if you saw like a group of people in a mugshot, then how would you be able to start getting rid of some of the suspects? How would you be able to tell what the suspects were? If you come up with the same thing that my students came up with. And remember, they're like 10 to 15 years old, well, around that age. Actually, I think some of them were like 7 too. They might have just been really, really, yeah, they're really fun. Well, some of the things they came up with was height. They said, oh, well, I don't think it's this person because he's too short. And it happened to be a guy. And that was one of the things they eliminated by gender. They eliminated by weight. They eliminated by facial characteristics. So there was a lot of things that they thought of on their own to be able to eliminate suspects. And for me, one of the things that I found out, because I used, okay, so I'm Mexican American, but the friend who stole my iPod was actually um, Caucasian, and so I put a lot of similar friends and stuff, and you can get pictures on Flickr and stuff like that of people, so that's very, very easy to do. But one of the things I did was a lot of the English language students were from Mexico and from Japan and Korea, and it was really interesting to see how we ended up talking um, about cultures and what they physically look like, and we had this big discussion because for them, some of the features and the people looked very, very, very similar, and so we had to talk about that because it brought up things about culture and the way we see other cultures and some kind of stereotypes that we often make. So I was very surprised. I thought, at the beginning when I filmed this, I thought, oh, they're going to be able to figure out the suspect really quick. And they really weren't able to. And so I thought it was really, really interesting that this happened. So this is one thing. Have your students, they can have them read those 5-minute mysteries, introduce them to this, and then they can get into groups or they can get into pairs and come up with their own mystery, write the story behind it, write the setting, write the situation, make a video, show it to the other classmates, and the other classmates have to figure out the clues. They have to come up with the interview questions. And this is a great way to teach different types of things and topics in language. Well, that about does for my part. That's what I wanted to share with you today. And what I would like to hear from you, because some of them, um, there's a lot of really great ideas and stuff out there, is to go ahead and you can talk yourself and tell us a little about what you do to introduce the mystery into the classroom and why you think mystery works, or if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to do that. So I'm going to try and get Bernie to talk again and see if she can tell us a little about her murder mystery game, because I'm sure she can give you lots of tips for making your own for the class, and also how to get your students to be able to make their own murder mysteries. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to post up my forensic science lesson. It may not be this week because I always say I'm going to post it up this week and it never happens. But I did it with the digital camera, so I'll try to find that lesson in my archives, and then I'll just put it up there, because you're more than welcome to use my mug shots as well, and my video of me getting my iPod stolen and my look of horror. My iPod. Oh, that's a very good idea. And Bernie, do you want to just try clicking on the audio again and see if that works? And if not, you may want to go to Audio Setup Wizard under Meeting. So Dina says maybe we could give them prompts and then they could create a story in the form of, I don't know how to pronounce that, tableau vivant, and then record it on Story Rope. Dina, do you want to get the mic and tell us a little about what that is? Because I'm not familiar with that term. Or maybe Daphne could tell us. Because I'm not sure what that is.
Okay.
Oh, Bernie's here.
Can you hear me? Sorry, it was set on something else and I couldn't find the wizard. Yeah. I mean, the thing you showed before was actually a story, a short story that is in, I think it's about 6 or 7 episodes, which is actually a story that was written by my brother. I have a brother who writes and a sister who writes, and they both give me poems and stories. And this one's quite heavy, actually. But the murder mystery game that we play twice a year is really a role play that we do online. So we invite, it's a group of 12 people, and we invite them to come into our member area, and they're in a special murder mystery network. And we give them characters. And each of the characters has a funny name, and it revolves around an art gallery owner who's been mysteriously murdered, and all of the characters are attached to him in some way. And each of the characters is given a profile and some information about themselves. And then we have a moderator who is a detective, and the detective sends out clues. Some of them are sent to individuals, some of them are sent to everybody, and then the members of the game have to contact each other through the member, it's the chat thing, and they contact each other and they try and find out the information. And then when they've accumulated all the information, then it should tell them who is the murderer. And the murderer is also in the game, and the murderer actually has a different set of clues, and they have a different sort of task to do. So it's sort of a race between the suspects and the clues and the murderer as to who gets to the end first. And that's really how it works. It takes about a month, and it's a bit stop-starty depending on how much time people have. But what amazed me the most when we've done it about 4 times now is how each of the students takes on the character of the role. So you have sort of one of them is a duchess, and the person who's taken that role each time has become quite haughty and taken on that persona. And it's really amazing. It's very clever, but it's fun.
Well, thank you. And when they
I hope you heard all that.
do they post in the actual community their role? Is that how they're able to?
Okay. And it is free to sign up to Gap Fillers. There is a paid space with a lot of the exercises, but the murder mystery game when we run it is open to everybody. It's just whoever wants to join in. Thanks, Shelley.
Well, Well, thank you, Bernie. That sounds so exciting. I'm glad you got to like talk and describe it because that's really fantastic.
Yes,
And
we have a blog which follows the progress of the group, and we also have a newspaper that we put out, and there are several sort of pieces that are written about the murder mystery as it goes along. So people can look at the blog and find out what's happening and post comments, even if they're not in the game. Yes, it was in fact my sister and I who wrote it, and we're going to adapt it for the next one because probably a lot of people know the outcome. The blog is actually only live when we're running the game, so you won't find it if the game's not running. It's quite I mean the game requires probably post-intermediate level of English, to be honest. It's quite complicated, or at least a good intermediate. Bethany, it depends how often people can post their answers to clues. So what happens is each character sends out messages to the other people to get the information, and they get clues every week, so it should take about 4 weeks in total, and they can do it whenever they've got time. But sometimes it takes a bit longer because people disappear on holiday and things, and that's one of the problems, is keeping everybody going all the time, and it's quite hard to do that. Any more questions?
well, thank you so
There are
much,
some
Bernie,
virtual
for
tours of the site, yes, on the home page. Probably there should be a general tour of everything, and then there are tours of different sections. We cover all skills. We also have a poetry section, short story section, joke section, and then the member home where we have chat and people can write blogs, and there's a wiki. Yes, on the murder mystery, it's 12 people in total. It's mostly adults, the site. Probably 16-year-olds would get something from it, but younger than that, I think. Most of the material is authentic, so it's taken from newspapers and things. So I would say 16 and up, but mostly adults. What, the story you see? It is a bit. It's quite an interesting story. Shelley,
I'm here. Can you
you
hear
coming
me?
back?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much. Can everybody hear me? Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Bernie,
you.
for letting us know about this. I think it's a really fantastic resource. And you don't even have to come up with your own murder mysteries. You can do that. But it seems that Tyson, who is C. Burnt, because that's his Twitter name, in the chat
I'll
box has
disconnect my
challenged
mic.
Tyson has challenged everybody to do their own murder mystery on their blog post, so we can come up with different murder mysteries for our students. Way to go, Tyson. But thank you all so much for coming today. You can catch all of these webinars and all the ones we are doing you can catch video recordings of them on YouTube. So what all you have to do is I'm going to give you the URL and then you will find us there. And we're here every Friday at the same time, um, or maybe a little later depending where in the world I am. Um, but you can catch us, and all of these recordings are free and to attend is free. I'll be making a live binder with all the resources, so that should be by next week. And you can always, let me put my email address once again, email me and get a certificate of attendance if you need that for your institute. So I'm Shelly Terrell at gmail.com. And Faisal has a question. So yes, go ahead and take the mic and I will get on. The mic is all yours.
Me? Oh, thanks. Well, I want to say something about using well mysteries and uh, crime sort of crimes in the classrooms. Well, actually, as you said that by using such things that we enhance reading skills, for example, I mean, reading teach or teaching reading inside the classroom. But when I say something about using mysteries, it's kind of storytelling. So I like using storytelling or stories inside the classroom because we want to enhance speaking first. Because we know that it's a skill, so we want to enhance speaking. We want our students to, as I said, that enhance our students. We want our improve our students that take the role of characters of the story or whatever. But I want to say something that this is interesting topic, crimes. Really, sometimes we can show our students, I mean, pictures of, I mean, famous criminals, for example, or whatever. But and really, I can. Well, actually, I used this in Oman while I was teaching in Oman. That because I wanna my students collect some information about crimes and famous criminals, so they can make a sort of detectives, you know, and you're right that using the strategy of interrogation, that questioning, and that they feel that they are in the police stations and they take the role of detectives and suspects, and really, and we can use a kind of survey, so how we can collect information about criminals, and also the best thing that we can use, that we can use drawing, because really sometimes because we teaching such things that crimes inside the classrooms, we want to teach our students how we can draw and take the descriptions, how they can describe the criminals. Sometimes it will happen in their real life, and sometimes they can be taken to the police station and they can tell the police about the criminals. Or they can use drawing, and they can give, I mean, right details about the criminal, and they can help, I mean, the police to catch the criminal. One thing else that you said, also we can use critical thinking here, because using such mysteries, using crimes, we want our students to use critical thinking. We have such a problems, and we want to tell them how we can solve such a problem, such things that they can face them in their real life. And thanks a lot. I don't want to say a lot about here. The floor is yours. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you for that input. I think that was really important when you said about storytelling, and I think it is really important. And like you said, it ties to the real lives because crime surrounds them, and a lot of them get really invested in some of the past crimes that they may have followed. And it can even be local and attached. I think we have to approach it in a certain way if we do local crimes, and we have to be a little careful sometimes with this topic. We can't go too overboard, maybe. Well, depending on the age and stuff. But those were really, really interesting ideas. So thank you so much for sharing them. Um, so thank you all so much. And we will see you next week for American TESOL Presents Free Friday webinars. And for those of you who are late and missed my special guests, they will say bye to you. Our mystery guest for our mystery topic will say goodbye. Thank you for coming. Enjoy your